Hello, friend, and welcome back to Homeward. I am so excited for today's conversation with my beloved mentor, Mark Nepo. Before we get into the conversation, um, I will just share a snippet of my experience with Mark. And it started with this book. And as you can see, it is well loved and well read. And it's just a profound teacher that I am so deeply grateful for. Um, and at this point, it's funny because I can hardly even recall when I met Mark or came to his work, but he's been on the podcast now multiple times and he's released lots and lots of books over the course of that time. He's written 27 books in his career, and each one looks from a different vantage point and perspective and teaches in new and profound and meaningful ways. And I say this in this episode with him, but what has been so cool is the way that he has shared his personal journey and what it looks like to travel with a mentor who is prolific in nature in terms of their commitment to their work, their devotion, and their immersion to their writing, and the way that they bring themselves forward in that. And I bring up different sort of tenets and touch points along Mark's journey in this episode today as we really get into the three latest books that he's written since we were last together. The most recent is called The Fifth Season, um, Creativity in the Second Half of Life. The one just before that was You Don't Have to Do It Alone, The Power of Friendship. And the one before that was called A Half-Life of Angels, and it's three books of poems. And I share a few of those. I share reading in this podcast interview with him today. But I want to open before we get into this conversation today with a poem for you that I'm just flipping to because I think it is deeply meaningful, and I think that it will kind of get you warmed up for where we're going to go today in this kindred conversation together. And this one is from The Half-Life of Angels, All the Same. We forget that in the beginning, the seed, the soil, and tip of root are one. And so, when reduced to our beginnings, love and truth interlace. When cleaved of our opinions, you and I are one seed, waiting for the sun to unfurl us. I'll leave you with that. I will also say, because we didn't get to this in the interview because we were just so moved by the experience, that Mark obviously has these books that you can go on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever you buy books, and you can get a copy of any of his books. I highly encourage you to grab all of them. The Book of Awakening, his newest book, The Fifth Season. I'm in right now and I'm really, really enjoying it. But he also teaches live classes, and he has in-person year-long programs that are coming up in 2026, where you can study with him in person. And you can find all of that information over on his website, and it's in the links here as you're listening to the podcast. And I encourage you to go listen to that and connect with that. He also has a Substack. You can just search his name, Mark Nepo, and we have all those links in the notes as well. But I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that because we just got really into the conversation and we really went homeward together. So without further ado, my friends, I'd love to introduce you to my dear mentor and friend, Mark Nepo. All right, friends, welcome, welcome. This is a very special day to me. Our beloved friend, Mark Nepo, is back. Mark, welcome back to the podcast.
Oh, it's great to be back and great to be with you as always.
Yeah, so we were last together, which both of us find hard to believe, in late 2022. And I feel like so many things have happened since then. And more of ourselves have stepped forward in that time, of course. And I would just love for you to share, if you would, where the road has taken you from then to now, if we pick
Sure,
back up in our time and our story together.
sure. So, from 2022, which was we were on the other side of COVID, and I was beginning to I didn't want to teach less, but I've been slowly wanting to travel less. And so I've been teaching more uh, here where I live in Michigan with the year-long groups that I offer. And, and slowly starting just to return to the places I love being. And And then last year, about a year ago, maybe last, well, couple a year and a couple of months, last June, May or June, I started having real difficulty with my back. And that led me in last September, I needed fusion back surgery, which was a huge thing. And so what had happened was the lowest vertebrae in my back. I was born with it protruding, it turns out, which never bothered me. But now that I'm in my 70s, it had grown 10 centimeters of arthritis, so it was that much longer, and it was pressing on all the nerves in my right side. So I was suddenly in chronic pain, where I just more and more couldn't do anything. Um, and so actually, and that last September, the time before that, the 6 weeks before the surgery, were really the toughest because, I needed really heavy duty pain meds to get to the surgery and through the surgery, which I'm off now after months. And so it was another humbling learning, I mean, and one of the things that was, my compassion for people in chronic pain. In some ways, it was like apples and oranges, but in some ways, it was more difficult than my cancer journey
Mm,
because while the cancer journey is like an earthquake and it's a crisis, this was just everywhere all the time, and there was no way to leave it. And so, it caused me to slow down tremendously, even though I'm a centered person that moves mostly at the pace of being and the pace of what is real, um, within the ups and downs of being human. And so, like during one part of this, I couldn't lift the coffee mug and the coffee pot at the same time. And now, a year later, when being pain free, I kind of like lifting them one at a time.
mm,
And, so everything, joy and pain and sorrow, return us to doing things one thing at a time, where the modern world has sped us up to multitask and to try to be in more places at the same time. All the spiritual traditions have, in one way or another, have offered practices, uh, so that we return to doing things one thing at a time, because that's the doorway to being fully alive. That's the doorway to being wholehearted. That's the doorway so that when I'm sitting with you, I'm really with you. And sometimes it takes pain to return us to that, and sometimes it's wonder, and sometimes it's beauty and surprise, or being loved completely for the first time. So it was, I my wife Susan, who was of course so there for me, and my dear friends. Um, well, being the object of her care every day was so humbling and so touching. And now I'm like, does your coffee have enough cream? What do you need? What do you need? Can I get this for you? Um, just so wanting to give back to her, and knowing, it wasn't easy for her. It was difficult because suddenly, and that the worry of a loved one, because we've all been in both places. It's a different kind of pain to be close to someone you love who's suffering and to be the one suffering.
mm,
The pain of being the one suffering is, you know it, you're in it. And the pain and fear is this going to last forever? Will it change? Will it get worse? What do I
mm,
do? Can I endure it? Can I move through it? Can I let it go? And the pain of the loved one is up here. It's more up around your throat. um, because when you love someone and you see them suffer, because of that love, it's always worse to you than whatever's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's a different kind. And and this is it gets us into the realm of real compassion, which literally means being with, which means, yeah, I am going to feel your pain if I love you. Um, and, and I'm going to feel her pain because I can't do anything and she has to help do everything for me. Uh, Putting on my socks, helping me shower, you know, um, can't, get up to get simple things. And all of a sudden, that takes her away. And she was, of course, willing and happy to be there, but that takes away from her life and the things that bring her alive. And so how we navigate, and of course, something like that back surgery or cancer or anything dramatic brings that into high relief. But it's the same thing whether it's, you know, who's going to do the bills this week and who's going to watch the kids and who's going to get the car fixed. And, so it's the same thing, but it's just moved more subtly into the spectrum of quote normal.
Wow. I'm curious to know what happened for you in terms of, your identity or your knowing of self through the pain, right? Through this sort of like tunnel that you walked through, to on the other side. And yeah, really like your self identity, your knowing of self, what
Yeah.
came up in that process for you.
Well, I think that, my deep, my deep center of being, of spirit, was not altered, um, and and my outer, my physical being and my confidence in moving in the world became very tentative. All of a sudden, I remember I had to cancel a lot of teaching retreats for 6 months or 7 months, and which was really hard. I felt like I was letting people down. I felt, so disappointed. And I had kept one in November that I thought, well, this is September, maybe I can do this. And of course I couldn't. Um, and it got close to needing to let people know whether I could do it or not. And I was trying to figure this out. And what
Mm.
if could I be on a plane? Could I do this? And and Susan said, "Well, of course it's your decision, but why don't you try walking to the bathroom first?" And of course it
Oh,
was like, what am I thinking? I can't do this.
yeah.
Can't do this. And so I think in terms of, my identity, and it's still something because now a year later I am well, thankfully, and and I still have some residual tentativeness
Yeah.
in going places and moving or doing, moving about. But inwardly, during this, and this was a very like affirming thing, is I kept writing every day,
Mm.
not in any sense of push or I need to keep working on these things, but because that was my tie to a the timeless foundation, the resource of life.
Mm.
And it was inner medicine. It anchored me.
Yeah.
Even though it took me 20 minutes to walk upstairs here into my study where I'm talking to you, and I never realized that there were 13 steps, and I'd have to, you know, muster each step one foot at a time, wait for the pain to subside, then lean, and but what was interesting is because of the pain, heavy duty pain meds, um, it didn't make me foggy, but it did make me, at times I had to reach for words, which I hated because that's not me. But when I was sitting here listening and retrieving and staying connected to source, it came through in a raw clarity every day.
Mm.
And And so that never went away. And thankfully, and that wasn't inner medicine. And so, the trail of that led to more deeper expressions and more manuscripts and books and poems. But I wasn't doing it to keep working, quote. And so I think, my identity, it's an interesting thing trying to honor, like I'm not back where I was. A lot of people say, "Oh, great, you're back." No pun intended, you're back. And no, I'm not. I'm well, and I'm discovering what the new normal is. I mean, one of the things during this was the difficulty of the recovery, and yet every time I checked in with the surgeon and I go in for checkups with their nurses, they would say, "You're doing great. You're doing just great." And so it was like, oh, this difficult recovery is what healing looks like. It is what this is healing.
Mm,
And so, it was, and also being uh, afraid to get, I understand how people can get addicted to painkillers
mm,
because, I was taking oxycodone for months and of course the alarm like, uh-oh, how was it? I needed it. And yet, and so I started taking it every 4 hours for the first 3 weeks or something. And then it, expands. But I immediately could see, okay, it's 3 hours. Maybe I could take the next
mm,
dose. I didn't, but it took some strength to not, and I could see, oh, I can see this is how this happens. And then, as I did get off it, there was a fear of, um, am I going to be okay off it?
right.
Is this going to be okay? Knowing that getting off of that is not to stay pain free or sensation free, because that's
Mm,
not life, but to be able to return to the normal river of experience.
mm,
So I think my sense of self I'm at once stronger but gentler, and I'm a little still dealing with being a little residually tentative, you know. And one of the things in teaching that was when I first started going back to teaching, I I tend to in larger groups, I tend to teach standing up a lot because, and then I like to move, especially when we're having conversations toward whoever's talking. And in the beginning, I couldn't do that. And I don't think it mattered to anybody else but me. That was a part of my identity I didn't realize.
mm-hmm,
And I felt like, well, am I not giving as much if I have to sit, which
mm-hmm,
is all ridiculous. But in
mm-hmm,
me, it was like, um, and so I had to kind of work through that. But, I just, a couple of weeks ago, I was teaching a large group in Wisconsin at the Sienna Retreat Center. And I was able to teach standing up as much as I wanted, and I wasn't hurting. And I felt, oh my God, you
mm.
know, what a blessing, as if nothing happened. And yet everything happened.
Everything happened. Yeah. Wow. 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 How these experiences connect us to not only parts of ourselves, but I hear in you sharing about the painkillers and people with chronic pain, like to other people in humanity and other dimensions of what we walk with. And I think you're teaching so much or always talking about that, the way we trade places and the way that we are so much more alike than we are different, and so you got to have a really nuanced close up opportunity to meet your own work, again and again and again through this.
Yeah, and I think also it's in terms of our culture, it's important to note, always great love and great suffering have been the great teachers.
Yeah.
They break us down and open and remove what's in the way, what grows in the way. And and great love can do that too. It's not
Mm,
just suffering. And in our age now, we suffer what I would call screen mentality. We are so not only are we distracted by being on devices, but so much that the mentality of being on device is creeping into reality. So that even without a device, so I can go to the store, the grocery store, and I come out of the grocery store, and someone has tripped with their bags and have fallen in the parking lot, and I think it's on a screen, or I act like, oh, that's terrible. Click. I'll go to the next screen, the next station, the next podcast, but no, that's real.
mhm,
There's nothing between me and that person. I can go over there and help them up. And so this veil, this
mm,
artificial veil, and so this is where uh, I see if I see someone walking slowly or with a cane now at the store, I can feel because I've
yeah,
been there,
yeah,
and if I see them struggling, I can go over and say, Can I hold that for you for a minute, or can I do, and and so it's always remembering there's nothing between us
mm,
and other life, and even without technology, just the nature of experience does that, and that's part of uh, the journey of staying real and being real. Is like the window in my study, gets dirty, not because of any mistake on my part or because nature's evil, because that's what nature does. It films the window and then we clean it.
mm,
And we do that over and over again. And so,
mhm,
getting in the nitty gritty of the daily particulars, I remember that there's nothing between life. And then I trip taking the garbage to the curb, and oh, and then I forgot to pay the phone bill, and oh, God damn it. And now my lens is filmed. And that's also why we have to stop and do things one at a time
yeah,
so that we can clean, so a perennial question, practice question for everyone is what experiences, relationships, and practices help you clean your inner windows,
mm,
the window of your mind, the window of your heart, your eyes, you know. Um, and every time and this cleaning, inner cleaning is what we call introspection and reflection. And every time we inner clean a window, we get an inch of insight.
mhm, yeah. Yeah, you do a lot of cleaning over there, my friend. I was one of the things I said before we hit record to those watching or listening is that since we were together last, Mark has written 3 books and not only like wrote them, but edited them, gone through the whole process, published them, and put them out into the world so that we could read them. And I just think that is so phenomenal. And to me, it's a really big deal, because I understand what it takes to get here,
Yeah.
and so, and I think the other thing that is so amazing about your work, right there, I mean, this old gal who is a beloved friend on the journey here that is with me all the time. Um, and if you're listening to this, you guys are like thinking, what are you talking about? I'm holding the Book of Awakening, which is a New York Times bestseller. And, I guess the book that people know the most of your work. But my version of it is like peeling and has had water spilled on it. And every page is dog-eared and written in. And then all of these other books that you've written. And so in the order, I think, was this one, did Half-Life of Angels come before You Don't Have to Do It Alone? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the Half-Life of Angels has three collections of poetry in that one volume, and they're all poems from my 50s and 60s. And so that
Mm,
was really a special joy to put to put that together.
So were these, I would love to just kind of like get a little glimpse inside your workshop and in your brain.
Yeah.
So the way that did you write this book? Like, had you just been writing these little poems and they would come up in moments and then when you put the collection together, or was it all in a row? Or like what's your
No,
process
so
when you write?
the way that really the way really that everything comes is the poems come and I collect them and work on them and learn from them because once they come, they're my teachers.
Hmm.
And then after a while, I look back and there'll be enough for one collection.
Yeah.
And then I will let them tell me how they all go together. And I have found ever since The Way Under the Way, which was a three books in one volume, that
Mm.
I love that structure.
Mm.
So I've been using that for all the way
Mm.
my poems come together. So no, I only look back and realized after it was put together that they were all from my 50s and 60s. And oh, huh. And
Yeah.
it's also how, the way that I work with my other books, which it's all poetry to me. It's just the other books are a larger canvas. And so what
Mm.
I mean by poetry is the unexpected utterance of the soul.
Mm.
And I've learned more and more over time that the creative process and the introspective process are really the same thing. I just happen to write it down because
Mm.
that's how I learn. Um, but it's really the lessons, so when I follow a feeling, a question, a clarity, a doubt, anything, and I follow it authentically, then it yields some expression which then becomes my teacher.
Yeah.
And so then the way that I put together books is, I'll have an idea, I'll have an outline, but that's all kindling for the
Mm.
fire. And I know it's not going to stay the same. And when it comes alive, so then I gather things over time because they ring true. And then, like, beads on a necklace or mosaics in a larger, I I see how they want to go together. And then I'll go, oh, that's a section. Oh, that's a chapter.
Mm. Hmm.
And so it's really, I feel like an inner explorer. I'm discovering these things and then learning how to put them together to share what they have to say.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing that
Oh,
process.
sure.
It's fun to be a fellow writer and to have these curiosities of like, I wonder how it comes together for Mark, and you also have all these different styles of writing. I love when your poetry comes forward. To me, it feels like my favorite band is this band called Need to Breathe, and music is poetry, but occasionally they'll do an acoustic tour, and it's my favorite thing in the entire world. And I feel like your
Oh,
poems are like your acoustic tour. It's like
yeah.
it's like Mark's acoustic tour, and I love all of what you write, your long form as well. But there's something about the poem that you just can just drop in
Yeah, thank
and
you.
be with it. I would love. Can I read one of your poems back to you
Sure,
that
of
moved
course.
me? I mean, there's so many in here, but there's something about the wording, the way you played with this one, and I love to surprise you with your work. Like,
Oh, well, thank you.
the
Sure.
feeling as a writer when something resonates for them, and
Yeah.
you're just writing it because you're writing it and it's coming through, and it's such a treasured moment, I think, when there's this shared, like, oh, you wrote this one for me, so thanks. Yeah. This one it's from The Half-Life of Angels, and it's in the first section, the book one, which is The Thousand Dawns, and it's on page 135, and it's called Twigging.
Ah,
Yeah. Okay. Sometimes the thoughts that plague me fall like pebbles off a cliff. I never hear them land, and the never landing sets me free. And feeling free, I fly into the lives of others, beaking their lessons like twigs I use to build my nest. And the twigging lets me breathe. Then, when I wait for the geese to cross the road, I lose all destination, and the waiting unfists my life.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, what
Yeah.
a play. What a play. What the way you use words in that one. It's
Well,
just, yeah.
thank you. And I know that you've recently evolved the theme and name of your podcast to Homeward. And I think that poem is a good way to start talking about that,
Mm, mm-hmm. Right.
because I think, the deeper home, um, is always, I mean, it's so interesting that we start out, um, and we're all taught that we have to get somewhere and we don't know where, and people point in different directions. And by the way, hurry up,
Right.
hurry
Yeah.
up. And so then we are instantly, not only are we mistaught that life is other than where we are, but we're mistaught about what is urgent,
Mm.
what urgency means. And developmentally, of course, when we begin, we do search outward to discover who we are, but we land inward to be who we are.
Yeah.
And so while we do in the surface world go from here to there, the real journey of life is from in to out. And landing there wholeheartedly is moving homeward so that we don't, you know, in my view, there's lots of ways to be with that homewardness. Some people want to retreat from the world and live only there. Well, that's not been my journey. My journey, being home, is being in the world from that home, from that home. And I think that was reinforced during my back surgery period. I was struggling in the world with my body and this back and this pain, but somehow my soul said, take as long as it takes to get up here and keep going homeward,
Mm.
which helped me be with the pain and move through the pain and the struggle. And so I think this opens up a different definition of resilience. Resilience isn't just making it through, bouncing back, being self-reliant. Resilience is, to me, by being thoroughly facing what is ours to face and being authentic, we gain access to the resources of everything we're not. Like a fish swimming with the current in the river.
Mm.
It uses all of it, and this to me suggests the proper use of will, not to bend the river, but to use our will to find the currents of life and align with it. And this is actually at the heart of the Taoist tradition, the ancient Chinese Taoists, because the Tao, which simply means the way, they don't try to name it, but often the image for that is that life is an invisible stream, and every soul is a fish in that stream, and our job is to find the current so we can align with it.
Mm.
And that doesn't remove us from the ups and downs of swimming in the stream.
Yeah. I love the way you're um I want to talk about the fifth season, and this is the newest book in the collection.
Yes.
And I, not to leave out our friend, you don't have to do it alone, the power of friendship. And I was honored for you to ask me to write a blurb for that, to be part
Well,
of
and
it.
thank you. I so appreciate it.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, highest honor and joy. And um you know, gifting to all my friends as a love offering and a gratitude offering, and it's beautiful. What I feel alive now, with the writing of the fifth season. I'm actually curious to hear too a little bit of your timing on when you were writing this. Um,
Yeah. So
it's
actually, I submitted it to my publisher um, just before all the back stuff started to happen.
wow, wow,
Yeah. Yeah. So, it affirmed it's not it didn't like say, "Oh, you got that wrong." No, it affirmed
yes.
what my soul was discovering, and of course, he added other lessons that I'll include in another book somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I look forward to that one. But I do feel, and and this is always one of those things. It's like, you don't know what to do with it when someone says it to you. So I'm going to say it, Mark, but because I've journeyed with you in your work, I feel a level of intimacy and connection to you because I've read the pages and I've been there in your journey. And you also do a really beautiful, courageous, honest job of sharing what it's like to be you, and what it's like to be in relationship to your parents and to your partner and to life and to your ambition and to now your aging
Yeah.
process and journey. And it's so sacred to get to then,
Oh,
walk into this. And I feel this level of reverence and gratitude that, I'm turning 44 in September, that like I get to have this now,
oh, thank you.
from
Yeah.
you as one of my teachers. I feel such a level of deep appreciation, to be like tracking with you in this, and like what an offering that you're giving to all of us, to
Oh,
be like,
thank you.
let's have this conversation at 44.
Yeah, and I think,
Oh,
thank you, because I think that while it focuses on the second half of life and aging, like even when I went through my cancer journey, these things are not just for people who are with ill or just for
right.
people who are aging. Those passages bring into relief
Yes.
the choice points that we all face throughout our entire lives.
Right.
And so I'm grateful that you feel that way, um, because it only and I've always thank you. I've always used my life as a case study for the
Mm,
the common archetypal passages,
mm,
uh, and I always like to say I offer examples, not instructions. And so now that I'm entering the continent of aging, I'm 74, and it's time to look at the physics of this time and what we're challenged with and what are the gifts um
yeah. Right.
and I think one of the things I've been discovering through this and through retrieving the book is I think we're asked to develop a different set of skills as we age.
Mm,
And one of the big things, which is kind of a paradox, is you know certainly the obvious thing is that as we age, we experience more limitation, and more acuteness and more aches and, you know, more pains and, more need for hearing aids and all of that. And so, not to reframe it, not to turn from it, but in concert with it, while this external experience of limitation continues, our whole lives has been a deepening and expanding inwardly. And how do we let them uh, be our teachers? How do we let them both at the same time uh, reveal things about each other? How do we not like, oh, I'm going to deny my limitations and be spiritual? Not, no,
mm,
not a
yeah.
turning from, but a working with. And and so that has been one of the big kind of thresholds in all of this time. Um, And so I use a metaphor, in the beginning of the book that was such a great teacher, and that is of a meteor. We know when meteors come into the atmosphere, most of them don't reach the Earth because they burn up as they go through the atmosphere. And what happens is they flake off more and more of their physical form, and they become brighter and brighter till all that's left is light. And I think that's what it is
Mm,
to live a lifetime on Earth.
mm,
And of course, we become brighter and brighter, and we become more and more light. And of course, nobody likes the flaking off. My back surgery was a flaking off. So that, the metaphor doesn't say, "Oh yeah, let me sign up for that." No, I wish I didn't, but I understand it's part of the journey. And if it
yeah.
wouldn't be that, it would be something else. And my uh, coming homeward, to use our language today, uh, and be returning again and again to the source while I was in pain was helping me stay in touch with the light, the deeper and brighter light that was coming through me for going through this.
Mm, You're bringing me back to that post in the Book of Awakening. I think it's so neat to think of like the way that the themes can come back and they shape shift a little bit, yet they're still exactly the same. And it's this. I've brought it back to your attention before, but it's the April 22nd. It is enough passage where you were at the hotel and you were slumped over on the floor after your rib
Oh,
was removed, and you said, "Where is God?" And it was, or you were asked, "Where is God?" by your wife, and it was, here, right here. And there's this little thing at the bottom where you this invitation where it says, close your eyes and know that though you may not see anything, you are growing, and that something larger than you is carrying you toward the light. And I just feel that in aging, it's like the thing I keep telling myself as I watch my parents get older. It's like they're just becoming more illuminated versions of themselves, like we're just
yeah.
becoming more light. We're all becoming more light. And so thank you for this new way, that new inroad to this
Yeah.
idea.
Well, and I think it's important. So this opens up different questions we can ask
Mm,
those around us who are aging, and anyone really is. So, we're so attuned because we care. So, you know, what are you feeling? Are you hurting?
mm,
And but after we get through that, I think we also need to ask, what are you seeing
yeah.
now? What are you feeling now? What are you uh, learning about life now?
Mm,
Um, what's opening to you that wasn't open before because of what you're going through? And these are ways to stay open to the depth and breadth of the light that keeps expanding and deepening while tending the pain and the suffering and the limitation. Um, and and there is a great paradox which I talk about at the end of the Book of Awakening. It's almost a safeguard on the mystery that I can work a lifetime to have to discover some bit of wisdom to share just as my tongue falls off.
yeah.
And then I become the the rock that you're drawn to sit on to see if there's some bit of wisdom you can discover to
Oh,
share.
yeah. Right. Right.
Which doesn't mean we don't do it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't, like I remember an older person in my life, earlier in my life when I was in my 20s, who I knew for a while, and he he sadly to me took that as, well, why bother?
Mm,
Why should I do anything if that's the way it is?
mm,
And this is what's at the heart of, Camus' The Myth of Sisyphus, is that not that it's tragic and terrible that he has to roll the rock up the hill forever, but that we have to love the journey and
hmm.
the struggle
Yeah.
because this is what it is to be here.
Right.
And it's in the journey, not any sense, of arrival. And to me, that's the messy, magnificent, noble journey of being a spirit in a body in time on earth. And really, what else would we do?
Right. What else are we gonna do? Roll the rock, you know?
And
Yeah.
I've imagined in one of my books, like what if you turned that myth around? What if, because
Mm,
essentially the Greek myth is that Sisyphus was punished for being cruel and mean and even chaining death underground, and the
mm,
gods punished him by rolling a rock up a hill forever. But what if he had been a kind and benevolent, caring soul, and the guards rewarded him by saying, "You'll get to roll a ball of light up a hill forever"?
mm, mm,
And what if he said, "Oh, that would only be wonderful if I could give it to people I met along the way"?
mm, mhm,
And of course, we being here, and this is a good way to look at this, the bouncing back and forth of aging, and again, any point in life, is we move between what we roll being the rock or the ball of light. Today it's a rock. Oh my God, I got to do this again.
mhm.
And tomorrow it's the ball of light. Ah, here.
Yeah.
Oh, here, you too.
Yes. Yes, it's both. Thank you for that. One of the things I love to always ask one, I mean, everything's a personal question, but one sort of personal question based on like writer to writer. I find uh and you can use the excuse of the season that we're in, even when it is very real, and I find that like the living poems are my children, and the relationships
Yeah,
and my presence with them. And it's extremely important. And I feel this like ache to write more and to get it out into the world. And I have this one book that's just sitting and it's just writing. It's like, hello, like what are you doing with me? And I'm okay. It does feel like a light spirit. It's not like a pressure thing, but it's a I want to offer it. I want to put it forward, and there's like something that makes that hard or kind of gets in the way. What are your words around that for those of us that know that we need the inner medicine of the writing, and yet there's the season of life that we're in and all these things sort of
yeah.
like keep us from it.
Well, I think that this speaks to, let me start below the writing and then we'll get to the writing.
Mm,
But I think this speaks to one of the beautiful, difficult, complex dances we do is between loving ourselves and loving others.
mm,
And that is a practice.
yeah.
And we usually are extreme about it. Either I will love you and lose myself, I'll give myself away, I'll become your work, I'll become your journey, I'll become your suffering. And then we bounce the other way. We go, gee, I didn't know it was going to be like that. I don't, and then we build a wall.
Mm,
And I think the ground, the art of being sensitive is no, we got to constantly find this shifting balance between loving ourselves and loving others. So the part of loving ourselves is by honoring our true self and going homeward. So we're really two kinds of homeward, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
now, but honoring ourself keeps the path homeward open. Loving ourselves keeps the path. And involves, that allows us to immerse ourselves with care in whatever calls our spirit.
Yeah.
It could be gardening, it could be stamp collecting, it could be whatever. Now, for those of us who are drawn to a life of expression, it's writing.
Right.
And so this what this calls us to is to say, I mean, there's two parts of this. One is to make space daily for going homeward,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't provide a home for your kids and those who love you if you're not home.
Yeah. Right.
So we brush our teeth every day. We don't think about it. So whether it's going to your writing or journaling for those people who aren't working on a book, you know, or being in regular conversation with a friend, a dear friend, where you explore these things, make 10, 15 minutes a day. So it becomes like brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Nothing is that urgent. We know when things are urgent. If you're not bleeding or you can't breathe, then that's urgent. Everything else may be significant, but it's not urgent. And so we can say, okay, I realize this is important, but I'll be with you on it after my 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And you could even you refer to it as going homeward. I think it's
Mm.
a wonderful way to even to model for kids. I need my 15-minute, my little spot of time to go homeward every day.
Yeah.
And where you go in there, and then that will ebb and flow as you're called to it. And some days it'll go to a half hour, and some days you'll have
Mm-hmm.
space. And so, how to integrate that into your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that, the great Stanley Kunitz, who lived to be 100, was an amazing poet. And really talking about aging is his entire, well, he and Yeats, I mean, this is common, I think, with a lot of people, but he and Yeats especially, if they had died at the age of 50, we wouldn't know who they are
Mm.
because the apprenticeship of their journey, inner journey, took all that time. And then the light started speaking deeply and directly through each of them. And but I remember that when I was teaching at SUNY Albany, and he came to speak, um, and he was in his 80s then, and there were a full audience, a couple hundred people, and question and answer. And some young person asked him, "How long did it take you to write that one poem?" And he began to answer, and it was as if an angel hovering over the audience spoke to him, and he looked up for like 20 seconds as if he was getting instruction. And then he came back and said, "My whole life."
Yeah.
And what he also said, his advice to young writers was make sure you do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you are experiencing life that can inform
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
your right. So your life in the season of your life, whatever it is constantly informing, but it's incumbent on us in immersion and devotion to make space for, and I like how we're coming upon this, going
Yeah.
homeward.
Yeah, I do too.
Make space for going homeward.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it involves writing and listening and retrieving.
Right.
But it's important in however you're blessed to teach, and I am, to open that up for everyone. I mean, a great question is what act of care brings you homeward? What is it
Mm.
for you? This is what it is for me. What is it for you?
Right. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Yeah, that was great. Mm. I mean, we could go on and we will. We will have you back again.
And we'll make sure it's not so long this time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all perfect. And I can't even imagine what you will write in between now and then and what I will write in between now and then. How about we say that too, as my homeward journey here?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, is there anything that you feel called to just leave with us today? In this moment. I don't know. I just feel like I want to pop that up for you if there's
Yeah.
anything that's feeling alive here for you to share.
Well, I think what I always come back to is to offer to anyone who's with us, our heart is our strongest muscle and our most sensitive instrument.
Mm,
And let it be our teacher. Let it be our guide. While, you know, we feel so much through the heart, both difficult and wonderful. Um, but I can say, at least so far, my heart's never let me down.
yeah, same.
So wherever we are, the mind can only take us so far. And when you feel like you've reached wherever that can go, turn to your heart.
Mm, yeah. We need more of us leading and living from the heart.
Yeah.
Mm,
And the word trust literally means follow your heart.
mm, so good. Mark, thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's always a joy to be with you.